Welcome to the Force Always. My name is Diz, aka David Zama. Let's get on with the show with the news, the views, the reviews, and interviews. Before I start the news, subscribe to the channel, The Force Always. I'm here 3 or 4 times a week with plenty of Star Wars stuff and, interpretations from a Star Wars fan like myself. In fact, later this week, I'm going to see Toy Story 5. Can you believe Toy Story 5? There's a 5th installment coming, and I'll be giving you a review from a Star Wars point of view and an Australian. So I'll be checking that out. That'll be later this week, just to let you know. But let's get into the news. And I start off with some real devastating type of news, my goodness. Star Wars Celebration in Los Angeles 2027 is in, absolute, in a predicament caused by themselves, by Repop. Repop are the people who are putting Star Wars Celebration 2027 in Los Angeles together. They've done that a number of times. And so what they're now doing is the people who got tickets in the small amount of time, because they decided to sell 20 tickets at a time, because they undersized the event, and now having people being emailed a special code who got tickets are able to get merch of their choice, whatever goes up online. That was for Star Wars Celebration exclusives. They're going to be able to do this coming up in the, coming weeks. There'll be a time and a date where they can do. I think it's just at the end of June sometime. It's on the site right now, and basically, yeah. So Star Wars Celebration, why this is so intensely bad is because the responsibility from Star Wars Celebration, Repop, the organisers, have not come to the plate or to the table and said, let's create these tickets that could have been sold that would make more money from themselves, and also satisfy the absolutely devastated fans like myself who missed out on tickets because of a slow walking man across the scene, whatever way was going in your way, I don't know. And it took forever and a day. And by the end of it, no tickets were available. This is the core responsibility that needs to be taken care of. This is because it's the 50th anniversary. People in America are saying because they haven't had a Star Wars Celebration for a number of years, since 2022 or whatever it is, which is sort of valid. But it is the 50th anniversary celebration. George Lucas will no doubtably be there. And knock on wood, that, this is an iconic time whilst he is alive. Whilst he's alive. Here goes that middle Olympia. But yeah, so that is really the news. Again, Star Wars Celebration at repop.com. Send in your comments of how bad this is and what needs to be done now. Not for the next Star Wars Celebration, now. To Repop, which is again Star Wars Celebration at repop.com. They're putting sales of merchandise that customers that have got tickets to the event before satisfying the real fans, which is all the fans, for their own monetary, endeavours. That's the only reason. Obviously, the people who got tickets would love to get this and that, whatever. But the fans who have missed out are coming second again. Repop, get your act together I'm telling you, this is out of control, and to the point where when things become officially announced, like panels, like photo ops, like autograph ops, and these extra so-called tickets from a wait list have not been made, it's pretty much you're going to pay for an event just to walk around a Star Wars mall, which is great, but you will not be able to do any of the things available there, like autograph ops, opportunities, that is. Ops is short for opportunities. Photo ops, going to the panels. These things are what makes Star Wars Celebration, really great to go to, along with the number one thing, as I've said before, interaction with other fans. But for a lot of that happens in panels, in the actual panels. It happens whilst in the lines of autograph ops and photo ops. But that won't happen if you don't have a ticket. I tell you, this is a really bad situation that is just not sorting itself out from qualified people. Put me in that position, watch me change things big time. That's if I was at Repop. Anyway, so that's making the news. The other piece of news is Rogue One has got some comic books out now of, so detailing the Rogue One events / Andor. So check that out. And that's pretty much the news for this time around. Let's get into now views. Views is my viewpoint, opinion, or a view idea that I have in a story idea with Star Wars. But I accept the story for what it is. The story that's been given to us now, whoever owns it, that's the story. This is where we are now. Whether it's good or bad, Star Wars still is a great space adventure. It's not sci-fi, in my opinion, and even the creators' opinion. I just think it's a great space adventure. Whether it's up or down, it's still a whole lot of fun. Anyway, so my view this time is actually an opinion viewpoint. There's always this talk about toxic Star Wars fans. What is it? What are they? Who are they? I actually think it's the wrong word. I think, a lot of Star Wars fans who appear online, especially YouTube, tend to sort of really push forward their story idea as the only story idea. Whether it's, it must be a George Lucas approved story, or it must come from George Lucas, or, the story should not have done this, the story shouldn't have done that. I think that there's no such real thing as toxic Star Wars fans. I think, look, there will be always the few out there just want to cause a bit of trouble and see the fun and the excitement of, a big sort of thing, having a downfall. And at the moment, we're sort of experiencing that with the Disclosure Day, the movie. Steven Spielberg's getting a lot of flack from that, but that's another topic. But let's get back into Star Wars fans. I think, look, there's two sides here. Star Wars fans who have their own Star Wars story ideas, like I do, must just really take it on as just an idea that they have and leave it as that. Unless you want to pay the money to the present owners, which is Disney, buy that and create that story, and for all of us to see, and then for all of us to judge. And then what you judge will be judged, and then we'll see if it makes money or not, or if it makes fans happy. For me, the story of Star Wars is just a great Star Wars story. But anyway, I just think, the Star Wars fans just really need to get a grip on accepting the story for what it is, obviously not being spoon-fed and saying taking it all for what it. But I understand there's good and bad, but I just think your story idea should be contained, and it's just something that you possess, and it could fruition one day. You never know. But also, the people commenting on Star Wars fans as being toxic is causing a misunderstanding. there's a lot of people out there with opinions that really become so strong that it must be the way and that's it. And so other people outside of Star Wars or in Star Wars can paint them to be worse than they really are. They're not bad people. These people who believe in this is the story it should be, then that they need to understand that that is the story that it should be. That's the Star Wars fan, and the people looking upon those Star Wars fans can't read them as being toxic. I mean, it just, they are just opinionated Star Wars fans, and that's it. Look, the word toxic is a real popular word in YouTube and in online media of different sorts, big time these days. I can tell you that the scrutiny that anyone gets because of the availability of things like YouTube, the internet nowadays, is intricately exploded. You know, it's just like, it's an out of control form when it becomes a bad thing. Because one bad thing dominoes to another bad thing in popularity of, oh, that's true, that's right, let's bring them down. We have this expression in Australia called tall poppy syndrome, which is where you sort of cut off poppies to bring them to the same level. That's a poppy, that's like a flower type thing. You cut them the same, so we're all the same. You know, if someone is, you know, at the top and they're making Star Wars, well, you know, it's envious, but it's great that they're doing that. If you want to get there one day, then you need to be able to afford what Star Wars is. Because I can tell you right now, George Lucas is such an inspiration to myself that before, during, and after he made the very first Star Wars, the amount of intense negativity in getting that film put out there, either from camera people, either from production people, either from getting the element type of effects that he wanted, from the story, the idea of the story, the characters in the story, was intense. But he put it out there, and that hard work, many decades, paid off for him, and he made a lot of money in the process of Star Wars, but also from when he sold it. And, you know, it's not about really selling, but we are in a thing called show business. As once a famous YouTuber said, this is not show friends, it's show business. So if you want to get your story out there for Star Wars, that is the story that should be, then start doing, you know, collecting of money to buy the actual franchise, and then you'll be able to create your own story. But I think the people calling Star Wars fans toxic are pretty simple-minded, because they tend to just go for the easy way out and just describing them as toxic. And I just think it's just a really opinionated Star Wars fans. Then outsiders really just taking advantage of, let's make this a story, and then it just goes like a war, a third world country type of war. But that's what it's just intense. That is my view this time around. Let's get into reviews. Reviews this time is going to be something unusual I've collected. Now, thankfully, I didn't keep the actual food product in here like some of the things I've got in here. But back in 2003, 2004, when Star Wars Revenge of the Sith came out, well, in Australia, we had these muesli bars. I got the choc honeycomb flavour. That is an episode 3. That's the actual packet that these muesli bars came in. It's sort of, the colour's gone a little because obviously time. And look, even on the back here, look at this. We've got you could collect stickers. I did get a couple of these stickers. I'm unsure where these particular stickers are, but I don't have any with me now. But I did collect also the wrapper from one of these muesli bars. Can you believe it? I kept the wrapper. There's one of these muesli bars. Look at that, huh? Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I tell you, the stuff you could get back then. Episode 3, the promotional stuff was out of Lay's chips, Pepsi drinks, meal deals, everything. It was just out. It was so fun, full of collectible fun stuff like this. Okay, fun. Anyway, this one I would say I'll give it a 9 out of 10 because it was great, but it was not as iconic as like this thing I've got here, which is the Pepsi by Darth Maul. That was to me, and that's full. Just to let you know. So this is I'll give this a 9 out of 10. Anyway, I thought I'd show you. That's my review for this time around. Now let's get into the interviews, which is usually my questions on my last particular video. I'm going to open them up and let's get underway. Send in your comments, whether it's just a comment, question, trivia question. I'm not Mr. Trivia, but I'll give it a shot. Let me just like a bit of good morning goodness there. That's the old coffee. And just to let you know, Melbourne, Australia is one of the best areas for coffee in the world. Just to let you know, that particular coffee was made here in my place. Not the best one, but still has the taste of coffee. Anyway, Michael from Werribee South has sent in many questions, as he does. He loves the show. He does love Star Wars. He's getting used to Star Wars. He's starting to love it. I know him personally, just to let you know. But please, it's not just about Michael from Werribee South. You can send in your questions, and I'd love to hear from you. What is Luke's defining character trait? Is it his exceptional piloting skills, his raw connection to the Force, or his unwavering capacity for empathy and forgiveness? In my humble opinion, I think Luke is actually the connection to his dad, Anakin Skywalker, as the chosen one. That's how I sort of view it. And in fact, I spoke to a Star Wars official writer at a Star Wars celebration. I think his name was Matt Smith. And I gave him my story idea. I said, I'd love to see Luke Skywalker and Anakin Skywalker come back as Force Ghosts for Episode 9, hold onto the lightsaber together to destroy the Emperor once and for all. Together. Somehow, as Force Ghosts destroying the Emperor, that would have been a really iconic moment. But you know what? I accept even Rise of Skywalker for what it is. I like it. Not many people do. I don't love it. I like it. And I like it a little bit more than just like. But anyway, so I think his defining character trait is being a part of the lineage of Skywalker as almost like a chosen one that was not the official chosen one. My story idea is not the official story idea. He was a part of, and his heroic. He was more of a hero that had exceptional connections to the Force, and I'd say because of his dad, Anakin Skywalker. So I think it's that makes him to be very. His character is, a very serious Jedi. Anyway, another Mandalorian peel. I don't think they actually exist in Star Wars, Mandalorian peels. I think it's just a level count in their blood. But anyway, the next question from Michael from Werribee South. Did Mark Hamill's real-life disagreement with Luke's sequel arc alter your perception of the films? The actor was vocal about his initial disconnect of how Jake Skywalker was written. Jake, I think it's Luke. Does knowing this affect you how you view his performance? It's funny. Even though Mark Hamill disagreed with where his character sort of eventuated in the in 7, 8, and 9, more 8 and 9 as he was more relevant in those ones because he only appeared at the end of Episode 7, even though he was around in the galaxy. I think it's one of those Star Wars cycles. Star Wars has story cycles, and we saw Obi-Wan Kenobi become, well, he was in the beginning a hermit style of person. He just retreated, something about this whole Jedi life that really exhausts someone even with a strong connection to the Force. I actually thought his, being a hermit-like person, lost the faith in being a hero because it was causing conflict in the galaxy. I think it was sort of a good trait. Maybe it could have done a bit better portrayed. I think there should have been moments, like as I said in episode 7, The Force Awakens. I think Luke should have been the one that grabbed the lightsaber from the snow when Rey and Kylo Ren were having a lightsaber duel. I think that would have been an all-empowering, powerful moment. But for what the story has said at that point, it was still very good. I loved how Rey took it on, as it was really her was being pushed as the front and center Jedi. But I just think, I don't know I don't think he went to the level of disagreed. He did accept that this is where the story is going, and he was going to do the best version of what that particular director and or writer wanted him to do, and he did it. And I think still, even with Luke Skywalker, the character going down, he's still a hero. He's still strong. He's still all-empowering, in my opinion. The next question from Michael from River South. Canon versus Legends. Which version of Luke is superior? In the expanded universe, Luke founds a successful new Jedi Order, marries Mara Jade, and remains a powerful guardian. In Disney's official canon, his academy fails, leading to isolation, which narrative arc fits his character better. Look, I like the idea of Mara Jade, but to marry is actually against the rules of being a Jedi, and I think the story of that needs to be followed. It's an unfortunate rule, I think, with Jedi. It's one of those real conflicting things with me, because I just think when George Lucas had the idea of a Jedi not loving, it just took away a lot from the Jedi, but it did also show sacrifice. I like the ideals of what the expanded or Legends says with Mara Jade. I think the character Mara Jade is exciting, even coming from the dark side to the good side and then marrying. But I just think it goes against the logic of Star Wars. I accept this story for Disney's version, as we're going to call it. I hate calling it Disney's version because it's really Star Wars version. I accept the story canon where Luke Skywalker ended, a failing academy, leading to isolation. That's how it is. Legends have really creative story ideas, but sometimes a bit over the top. I don't really follow Legends or extended universe. Personally, I have my own ideas, as you all guys may know. But I like listening to these stories as versions of events. But I don't know. I just think Legends gets a little bit too sci-fi, a little bit too intense, a bit too much involved in Star Wars lore, where I think Star Wars in the beginning, which is 1977, really had a humanized story element to it. We could all relate to Luke Skywalker, and it just had, it has a real connection to reality. It's a fantasy, Star Wars, if you don't know, but it has a real connection to reality. Even with some of its clothing, some of its vehicles, and storylines, it has a close understanding of Earth reality. It's why I sort of like it a bit more than say something like Star Trek. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a Star Trek hater. I think Star Trek is good, but it's okay, but it's a little bit over fantasized, and it's just purely about the space thing, less about the human thing, in my opinion. Okay? Anyway, so the next question, by Michael from Wherever South is, was Luke's portrayal in The Last Jedi a betrayal of his character? This removes the most polarizing debate in Star Wars history. Did his exile make sense following a massive failure, or did it ruin his original heroic legacy? No, I think for the story that was being told then, during episodes 7, 8, and 9, I think it made sense. He needed to be away from everyone. He needed to disconnect himself from the Force because Luke Skywalker thought he was causing problems. So he thought, well, I'm just going to stay away and that would be a better thing. So I think it made sense in a Star Wars way and real way. Anyway, that's my answer to that one. The next one, by Michael from Wherever South, was drawing his lightsaber on a sleeping Ben Solo completely out of character. Fans still fight over whether a momentary instinct to stop future evil aligns with the man who risks everything to save most hated tyrant in the galaxy. It is a really interesting scene where you see Luke Skywalker in episode 8 draw his lightsaber on Kylo Ren. I think it was episode 8. Is a flashback, I think it was. It is a bit of a, out of character element. But, we all have times in our lives that we can be not the person that we are perceived to ourselves and to others. It just happens. Sometimes you'll just lose it with someone and just lose it. And at this point, even the most strongest person, Luke Skywalker, to himself and others, just lost it. He just lost it. He just, evil and good is always present in reality and in Star Wars. To know how to hold on to good versus bad is a challenge of all our lives in reality and in Star Wars. The next question, did Luke lose his personality in Return of the Jedi? Some fans feel his calm, stoic demeanor as a full Jedi Knight came at a cost of charm and emotional vulnerable he displayed earlier in the trilogy. It's by Michael from Wherever South, that question. No, I thought it was great. That transformation of him being serious is really the first moments we really took on Luke as a very serious Jedi without this, fun and games. I liked it. I even liked how he wore black. Even though black is represented to the dark side, I think black, to me, the colour, or the shade actually, is a very neutral sort of colour and a very, sort of discreet colour. I love it. I love black. If I could tell you how many things I've got in my own personal life that's black, I've got a black watch. I've got a black phone. I've got a black computer. I've got a black car. I've got a black couch. I've got a black bed. I've got black. I love black. But anyway, no, I think his personality in Return of the Jedi, Luke Skywalker, was great. Absolutely, it really portrayed to me seriousness. Anyway, the last question for today, and it's by Michael from Wherever South, was Luke actually a whiny teenager? Many viewers criticise his attitude in A New Hope, while others argue his impatience in realistic trait for an isolated farm boy desperate for adventure. It's the second part. He was just desperate for adventure. That's all it was. He was whiny. I mean, when we're kids, when we're 10, when we're 16, when we're 25, we all can be whiny. I mean, it's not really whiny. That it's more the energy of ourselves at that time that we can be, really eager to get out there in the big bad world or big good world. I don't know, but I just think it was fine. I think he was just his impatience, being isolated as a farm boy, is what really happened, in the beginning stages of A New Hope, episode 4, which will be coming out next year in its original form, which will be a test for the eye and ear for lots of us, even though I'm looking forward to it. But anyway, that's the answer to the question, and that is the show for this time around. Again, subscribe to the channel, The Force Always. I'm here 3 or 4 times a week with the news, the views, reviews, and interviews. Don't forget, later in the week, I'll be rocking a Toy Story 5 review. And until then, my friends, keep rocking.